pushing past that, because like I said, I know y'all have been having some discussion on Lane Kiffin, who once again is still currently employed by Ole Miss. So talk to me about the discussion that y'all were having, because I'm not privy to it. So let's discuss that. Y'all let me know where y'all at, and if I have anything to add, I'll jump in.
Go ahead,
Listen,
Colin.
Lane Kiffin currently is the head coach of Ole Miss, John. Thank you for pointing that out. But he's been in discussions with both LSU and Florida. There have been reports today that his family is currently in Baton Rouge touring, and they said that he's been in talks with Florida. The whole talk this week, as Ole Miss beat Florida, was that he's destined to be Florida's next head coach. Um, so me and Hunter were having this conversation with him having games left in the season and with them still having a playoff berth. There was talks, and I put it in the group chat, that Ole Miss executives were kind of frustrated with how this situation has happened, and they're expecting him to make a decision by the Egg Bowl of what he's going to do, because he said, well, Brett McMurphy reported that if he doesn't make a decision, they could just move forward with the defensive coordinator and just go forward without him being at the helm because of all of the confusion that's happening. So your colleague Hundo was like, "Good, that, that y'all not gonna rush me. That he can leave, and then he's gonna take all the recruits with him." And so I said that we were arguing about how much better the LSU and Florida jobs are versus Ole Miss. And so I was expressing that in today's landscape, I think he can win, 9 to 10 games every year at Ole Miss. And I think if we look historically at what LSU has been, LSU has fired two coaches that have won national championships. Les Miles, Ed Orgeron. Les Miles wins 9 games, they fire him. Ed Orgeron wins 5 wins. He gets 5 wins, and then they fire him. Obviously, it was much different than that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase roster. And so what I say is that the grass is not always greener. That he could just win 9 to 10 games for a couple of years. There's always going to be jobs left. He doesn't have to leave and take these two jobs, because I think that they're national championship expectations with both fan bases. And I don't think Lane Kiffin is a national championship style or type of coach right now. Last season, Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. They lost 3 games, and they almost made it into the playoff. And so there were a couple of games this year. Even if you look at the Ole Miss Florida game, they were losing that game going into the fourth quarter. And there's a couple of games they could have lost, and they could have easily been 9-3, and the narrative would have shifted. So I think if you go to LSU or Florida and get a big bag, they're going to be expecting national championships. And if you have consistent 9-3 seasons, those fan bases are going to be angry, and they're going to want to move on eventually if you cannot produce at the level that they expect. So I said, just realistically, I don't see why it's necessary to have any added pressure when you can do the same thing that both of these programs do. Even with the increase in NIL budget and salary, that doesn't always mean that it's the better job.
Okay, Hunter, your rebuttal.
I just don't think you can put that moniker on Lane Kiffin. Like, and me and Colin were talking about this as well, but like I was telling him, there has to be a sense of urgency. Colin was saying, there might be other jobs that opens up, next year. Don't just rush and go to one of these two jobs, right? You don't know if that man gonna be alive or not.
Hey yo,
That man not God.
hey
You don't know
yo.
this time coming. Hey, you got to jump on the opportunity when you can.
Okay, that's your speech.
Yeah, that's the speech. That's what I've been having to deal with for the past 2 hours, John.
That was a part of it. That was a part of it.
Okay.
But also, like I was telling Colin too, like we got to understand what his values is or are. Does he just want a bag? Does he actually want to win a championship? Does he not think he can win a championship at Ole Miss with the resources, with the NIL that he has there? Does he think he needs more resources and NIL money to get the proper guys that he needs to truly compete for a championship? We don't know what his goals and values are. So we got to understand that too. So, I mean, if he goes there and he wins a championship at LSU, what's going to be the conversation? And Colin was saying, well, what you going to do next year? Which is a valid question. But like, if I'm Lane Kiffin, if I can go to LSU and win a championship, I've done what I needed to do. So what does success look like for Lane Kiffin wherever he decides to go? If one championship is not enough.
That's true. That's true. Because I mean, in reality, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the last time Lane Kiffin won a championship, like on as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he ever has. But I don't think he ever has. So it's like, okay, and to truth be told, with his Ole Miss team, he's not doing it right now. Not the way it's looking this year. I mean, they had a decent season, but I don't see it happening this year. But in my personal opinion, even if he goes to Florida next year, I mean, they're not winning the national championship next year.
Right.
They don't automatically go into national championship contention. LSU, I mean, you got more of an opportunity just because of the prestige and things like that. But to Collin's point, I mean, those schools are going to expect that, right? Those schools have that pedigree of championship winning. So it's like, okay, if we don't get this in the next 3 to 5 max, you're out of there again. You know, now you're in the same position. And I feel like I think we had this conversation before of like certain schools you have like a pedigree of like we expect championships, and then you got certain schools like we just expect to be able to say we made a good bowl or at least made the playoff once in the past 4 years. You know what I'm saying? You have those kind of schools as well. So I mean, I think you gotta if you're Lane, you have to kind of weigh those options. Now, obviously, money talks at the end of the day, right? So if somebody throwing you a bag, go get your bag. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad at that at all. To Hondo's point either. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause money matters. That's facts. You got a family you're trying to take care of, all that stuff like that. And Lane Kiffin has built up a name for himself to where he can recruit, where he can, do all these things. So it's not as if he's throwing himself into a fire. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, I'm just throwing myself to the wolves at LSU or to Florida. I'll have my name to say I'm still Lane Kiffin and I can recruit, just as Jane Franklin has his name to say I can go recruit down to Virginia Tech. So I think he has that pedigree behind it. So I think that works in his favor wherever he decides to go, if he decides to go anywhere. I think, yes, it can definitely be annoying for the school, but I think schools have to understand that these days, coaches are always going to have their names in the mix, especially if you have a good coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dabo said his name in Alabama when Nick Saban left immediately. You know what I'm saying? He was winning at Clemson at that time. So it's like, if you're a good coach, you're going to have your name in the mix. You know what I'm saying? And like, schools just have to realize that just like NIL is a thing for these kids, these student athletes who are coming into these programs or transferring into other programs, same for coaches. I mean, yes, my paycheck is good today, but yesterday's price is not today's price. You know what I'm saying? So that does change as well. So like, why do I have to have loyalty if the school don't have loyalty? If the kids or the student athletes don't have loyalty as well? You know what I'm saying? So like, that's my personal opinion on it. It's like, and I think people do this in real life all the time. Like, we are not loyal as people think to our jobs. We are loyal to a check, and that's the honest to God truth.
Say that again. Say that again, Collin. For Collin.
People are loyal to a check, and it's real. Now, I will say there's a difference between us making maybe 100,000 and them making millions. There's a difference, but at the same time, if I'm like, let's say my annual was 10. And LSU saying, all right, bet we give you 15 to 17, and I get to go to LSU, I'm winning. You know what I'm saying? Why am I going to stay at LSU if I can go do more with more money and more things? You know, like I'm saying, like you're still playing a whatever game because you're staying within the SEC as a conference, so you still have to face the same kind of dogs. But you could, in his eyes, it could be better for him. It could be a better situation for his family, for whatever the case may be. So that's what I got to say on the topic.
And that was also what I was telling Collin too. Like, it's a win-win situation for Lane. Like, either he gonna get a bigger bag, or he gonna go there and win a championship. Like, it's a win-win situation. Like, you can't really lose in that situation.
Yeah, the only way I see him losing is at Florida, to be honest with you, because Florida hasn't won anything in a while, and like right now, I don't know if they're built enough to win in the SEC. Like, them boys is even rocking. So like Florida, for me personally, if he decides to take that route, that would be an interesting role for him because that's more of a rebuild, right? Because I mean, you don't really have a solidified quarterback right now. And then you say with LSU, I think Nussmeier's going to leave, and probably if he doesn't leave this year, definitely even next year. So it's like you're in a rebuild mode of needing your centerpiece. Then you got to rebuild some other pieces. So it's like having that in your mind as well. But I think Florida's definitely more rebuilt than LSU is.
And,
So,
and I think also with Florida too is like me personally, I don't think they should have that expectation of winning a championship.
yeah,
Like
that's right. I agree.
like maybe historically, yes, y'all have won national championships, but like right now, y'all are nowhere near national championship caliber.
Yeah, that's facts.
So we gotta have an honest conversation about some of these teams' expectations.
That's
Well,
facts. But and that's
so
real. I think. Go ahead, Colin.
I mean, but I'll say this though, like back to your point about the money, like all money is just not good money. Like when you're talking about the difference between $100 million and $50 million, I get it. But Ole Miss offered him an extension. He just has not signed it. And I'm sure in that extension, he will probably be one of the highest paid coaches in college football if he signs it. I think on the benefit for LSU would be the connection of boosters where I'll be making more money and I'll have a higher NIL budget. But the problem is, as we've seen over the past couple of weeks, they're still going through litigation with Brian Kelly about this $54 million buyout. They don't want to pay him the money. And you see how the governor of LSU has meddled with all the athletics in LSU. I told Hundo, it's not just about the money, it's about alignment. I think there's certain jobs in college football I would leave for, like we were talking about in the group. I would leave for Eugene, Oregon. I would go to Oregon because I think that there's alignment. I would leave for Texas. I would leave for Ohio State. But I'm saying the state of these two programs right now, I just don't think it's a benefit to leave for money for these jobs because I don't think that there's a lot of alignment. And I think that LSU thinks that they want to be Alabama. They want to compete for national championships. If you go 9-3, we saw with Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer went 9-3 last season. He just got there, and people are already talking about his buyout and hot seat conversation. And I think Kalen DeBoer is one of the best coaches like in the country. Like I would say he's like top 6, top 5, top 6. And I just think that that's unnecessary pressure when you've already built something at Ole Miss. Like, what is the benefit really of leaving for LSU? Because even if you get a transfer quarterback and he doesn't hit, now you're stuck. Now you have to hope that you can hit on another guy next year. And I just think that year to year, like roller coaster is something you could avoid, and you could just stay at Ole Miss. Like if he stays at Ole Miss another year, goes through the playoffs, goes through a deep run, and then has the same season he did this season next year, I think that there will be a number of different jobs open next year. Now, if it's a better job with alignment, go. But I just don't think the jobs that are available next year, available this year, is worth leaving Ole Miss for. Because Ole Miss is doesn't have any money. We're not talking like it's Mississippi State or like it's, I don't know, Tulane. Like this is a decent program with resources and access to talent, and he's currently in the playoff. Like, he doesn't have to do anything. He can make the playoff and go on a run. He can win a national championship this year. I don't think he will, but he has the opportunity this year. Why leave it?
I think though, to your point of like, if you're going to play out this year and then potentially leave next year, why not just leave now? Like, because like to Hundo's point earlier, and to answer your point, you don't necessarily know what jobs are going to be available. You can assume, and we can say, all right, well, this person may be on a hot seat based upon this school's resume, right? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody who's like, but you also got to think in that same regard, the jobs that become available, I may not be wanting, right? It may not be a LSU caliber school that's available next year. It may not be a Florida caliber school that's available next year. So like, it's like, okay, if my plan is to leave, now one thing I can't speak because I don't know what Lane's, plans are. Only he knows that, right? But I mean, if the plan is to leave, why not leave now while I'm coaching good? Because let's say I go now next year, something happens at Ole Miss, and now I go 2-10. Now nobody want me. Now I'm a problem. Now I'm on the hot seat. You know what I'm saying? Like when I could have left when you strike while the iron's hot. In theory, you know what I'm saying? So like, if he's gonna go, I think now is the best time to go. Because to Hunter's point earlier, no man knows the day nor the hour, right? And you don't know what's gonna happen next year. Not to say the man gonna die, but your team may not be as good next year. You may have a fluke injury. Your quarterback may tear ACL. He out for the season. That was your guy. You know what I'm saying? And so now your team can't perform. And so now everybody look at you crazy. So like anything can happen. And so it's like if I'm gonna slide, let me slide with the iron's hot. That's all.
And don't rush me.
And
Don't
don't
rush
rush
me
me. Don't rush me. That's
because I'm
true
taking
too.
everybody with me.
That's facts. And I get that point too because it's like, okay, if you gonna fire me, you gonna fire me today. You know what I'm saying? But you want a decision tomorrow, and it's like, come on now, let's be honest about this thing. People, these jobs you want in the 30-day notice when you about to quit, but when they want to fire you, they fire you day of and have no explanation or nothing needed. So
Hmm.
it's like, it gets real dicey when you get into these kind of conversations because it's like, okay, there's so much that goes on. To both of y'all's points, I think both of y'all made great points in regards to like, what can be done, what should be done. The pros and the cons. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, am I making this decision that's best for me and my family at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying? Like that's
That's a
really what it comes down to. Because I mean, like, yes, championships are gonna matter. And yes, championships are gonna be valued differently at different schools, right? Like you said to Colin's point earlier, I mean, Florida may not be requiring you in the national championship next year. They may say, okay, you have 2 or 3 years to do a rebuild, blah blah blah. Same with Ole Miss and LSU may be saying, okay, we're expecting a national championship within the next 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Bringing you in, this is what I found a piece was. You know what I'm saying? But also to Colin's point, it may not necessarily be the right job for him. You know what I'm saying? It may be shiny, maybe gold, but it may not be the right job for Lane. So like I said, Lane really has to sit down and evaluate all of that for himself, like all of these things, where I am currently, what I could be doing, and all of these things like that. So, you know, God bless him. He has a crazy and a big decision to make for his life and what's coming next. But it's also crazy that these are the jobs that he has to offer. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what else James Franklin was weighing in his options, but I mean, to me, in looking on the outside looking in, going from Penn State to Virginia Tech, it's a drop. Yes, he's still James Franklin, but it's a drop for him. He didn't have necessarily like a Penn State level school that was coming to get him. Yes, once again, Virginia Tech has some prestige, things like that academically, but athletically for football, they don't necessarily have that same kind of prestige that a Penn State has. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's Lane's in a different situation where he has the options to say, okay, I can go from pretty much making a lateral. It's almost lateral movement, honestly, because to me with LSU versus the Florida, where it's sloped. It's sloped in Florida. Me personally, it's not a complete drop, but it's a slope. You can tell.
Yeah, but I think to your point, John, I think James Franklin, if he wanted, he could have had Arkansas, he could have had Florida, he could have had LSU. Some of this is because they were kind of waiting on Lane before they made a decision. But I
Mm.
think the fact that he went to Virginia Tech, once again, I repeat, a lot of it's about alignment too. And we don't know what he
Yeah,
has at Virginia Tech. If he has an
agreed.
alignment, he can win easily. And so what I'm
Agreed.
saying is you can go to these jobs and it can sound great. It sound like a splash hire. But if you don't get the job done, like they're going to be on your head. And him getting the job
Hmm.
done, he could be doing the same thing that he's doing at Ole Miss. And if you don't have the right alignment from top to bottom, you can easily lose. So that I get what you're saying about the 2-10, but that same thing can happen if he goes to Florida LSU. You get
Yeah,
one injury, you get, one recruit that you miss that affects the entire team. You lose the locker room. That
that's
can
fact.
easily happen because you're not playing. It's not like you're playing a bunch of like Tulanes, Tulsas, Navies. Like the SEC is going to be changing every year.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. I think, like I said, NIL has really changed the game altogether, and so it's like I said, that money. I think at the end of the day, really what's going to change is what's going to talk is that money, and like you said, the NIL that I can provide. Because like, yeah, I can go to Florida for $20 million more, but if my NIL is not going to match what I can do at LSU or Ole Miss, then like you mentioned, the alignment really can be purposeful for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't bring in the recruits. You want to fire me next year anyway. Like kind of what you mentioned with DeBoer. And I think his is a little bit different because he's following Nick Saban, who is one of the greatest of all time, right? And so it's like when you're in that kind of situation, the fans have an expectation of what should be happening. The school has an expectation of what has happened, previously, and you don't necessarily perform to that same standard off rip. Yeah, they don't call for your job immediately because that's what they're expecting. That's what they're used to. If Andy Reid were to leave the Chiefs today, and let's just say I don't know, D'Amico Ryans leaves Houston and goes to the Chiefs and has a terrible season. Let's just say he goes 8-9 next year. I'm like, oh, fire this guy. Who is he? You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I think it's a lot that kind of goes into all of that. Personally, so
And I think
yes,
at Florida, they still
yeah,
think that Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier walking through that door. Like that we know SEC
yeah,
fans are delusional. We got to be honest.
yeah, yeah. They are.
These
It's
schools delusional too.
they are. Very much
Agreed.
so. I think that,
And that's what I'm saying. You need alignment. You need to be realistic.
Yeah.
What is the expectation here? And
Yeah.
what is realistic expectations?
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. I'm not mad at it, man. I'm not mad at it at all.